Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 400. Meeple Nation December News and BGG Con report.
Welcome, citizens of Meeple Nation. For the next 30 minutes, sit back and enjoy.
Meeple Nation is brought to you by GameToppersLLC.com. We were just at BGG, and you know what I missed the most? Game Toppers. Andy's house, you got great Game Toppers. Here at the headquarters. Here at the headquarters are fantastic.
They're not Mycrofts. I mean,
we get spoiled because we have such great pieces of equipment to play our games on. At the con, where it's not a local con, we couldn't take our Game Toppers with us. I just felt so hampered when we're playing bigger games. They're such a great product. It makes all the difference. It really does. I miss them dearly while we were gone.
I was hoping that Kevin was going to be there at BGG Con too. I enjoy hanging out with Kevin. He's an outstanding guy, and the world needs more people like Kevin in it for sure. Fulfilling your new table, Andy. Hopefully my leaves in there sometime, my dining leaves.
yeah, he's been busy trying to get stuff out the door, and global issues that they're having with supply chain stuff. They've been struggling to get things out on time as promised. But one thing that Kevin definitely does is he really takes to heart customer satisfaction, and the people that order toppers really tries to make sure everybody has a good experience with him. So
Yeah, Kevin's a champ.
he is. He's awesome.
GameToppersLLC.com.
Welcome to Meeple Nation. We are your hosts. I am Andy Holiday.
I'm Nathan Howard.
I'm Dave Holiday.
I'm Logan Howard.
Check out our website. We have our blogs there, all of our previous episodes. You can check out photos. We have not just our blogs, but we have bloggers that aren't necessarily recording with us, but have fantastic writing styles. Have written some really interesting blogs. I've really enjoyed reading through those. We also have bios on there that you can check out if you want to dive into kind of how we all got into gaming and how we've gotten to where we are today. We also are on Twitter. Follow us there. Follow us on Instagram. And we have a Facebook Meeple Nation Off Air page that you can join that group. We post kind of what's going on and what we got going on in the week, games we play, and some of the fun things that happen. So check us out. You can also email us with any questions or comments that you have at meeplenation@gmail.com.
We are recording episode 400, which is big, right? Dave's entrance introducing episode 400. Meeple Nation started in 2014. May 31st was our first episode released. We're into the tail end of 2021. 7 years that we've been releasing episodes. I keep wanting to say on the air, but we're not really on the air. But maybe we're in your ear. So 7 years of in your ear. That kind of sounds a little creepy. So maybe we won't use that. But 7 years we've been here. We've talked about hundreds of games. We've talked about loads of topics. Some of our faces have changed. Logan joined us in February of 2019. Dave joined us in August of 2019. And Andy joined us in July of 2020. Excited to have you guys. This is a great collection of voices, I feel. I really like the diversity in some of our game choices. I definitely like the diversity of game collections that Andy brings to the table. Gives us a much wider variety of games and content to use. Things have gone throughout the years. We have gotten a lot better, I hope. Anyways, I feel. After going back and listening to some of our early episodes, I can definitely say we've gotten better. I don't know if I could say we're good, but I feel like we're all right. Sound quality has gotten a little bit better from when we first started. Right now, we're kind of messing around with changing up that sound. So over the next couple of episodes, you will notice some of that change. We're trying to improve that quality. You'll have to let us know. Give us your feedback on that. Shoot us a message at meeplenation@gmail.com. And then also editing. Editing has gotten a lot better from when we first started. I mean, we've learned a lot from our earlier episodes to our later episodes. Editing improved quite a bit. We've had that webpage reboot. I feel that that's more accessible, more user-friendly. This year we started doing blogs, which has been a ton of fun. We got 7 bloggers, so we got the 4 of us plus 3 guest bloggers. Leads to the question of what's next? What can we improve on? So we've kicked around some stuff. We kicked around some ideas, and we think, do we start doing some video? Do we have a face for video? Pretty sure I don't have a face for video. Dave, you do.
I'm looking around at this table, and I do. I definitely see a lot of face for video.
Oh, dear.
Even you.
All right.
Wow, that is not what I was thinking you were going to say.
Yes. I thought for sure you were going to go the other way. Looking to getting some new software, some new hardware. Only time will tell. Which does lead me to our next phase, is we have set up a Patreon page. And so you can look on Patreon for Meeple Nation. If you enjoy what we're doing and would love to help us out, please feel free to jump on there and give us some support there. We're not sure. We're looking into getting some new hardware and to maybe getting some new software to hopefully improve. 7 years, this has all just been a straight hobby for myself and you guys as well. It has all been at our own expense, which is not bad. It's something we enjoy. We'd love for you to feel like you're involved. As we look at that, Patreon offers ways for us to provide extra content, which leads me to this question. If we were to provide extra content to you listening to the podcast, what is something that you would say, I really want to experience this with Meeple Nation? Is it video? Knowing what we're going to talk about beforehand? What is it? Started including bloopers or whenever Dave talks at the end of our episodes. If you listen all the way through the music, you can hear some of those. It's been going on for probably about 10, 15 episodes now. Gives you that little bonus treat, those post-credit scenes. Check those out. Let us know. We would love to hear feedback from you of what extra content you would desire from Meeple Nation. With that, so a while back we released our holiday gift guide. Russell Thacker suggested that we should add the Crew Deep Sea to our holiday gift guide list. We played a little bit of this at BGG.
And you and I have been playing it online together as
Which
well.
is a little bit of a challenge, but...
It does definitely add a different element.
The Deep Sea is a little bit different than the Quest for Planet 9 in such that the way some of the missions come out, you still go through the missions, but the challenges that are within those missions, each mission gives a challenge rating. You have to draw challenge cards until...
Meet the rating, so
meet
each...
that rating, yeah, so it doesn't exceed that rating.
So you're not trying to get necessarily one thing and it's random is what it sounds like?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have the mission that kind of gives you some flavor of the expedition of what you're doing under the sea. Each mission is not going to be exactly the same. So when you're playing it over and over again, you're not running into the same experience every time.
That's awesome. I like that, the replayability of that. Huge improvement to the previous version, it sounds like.
I really enjoy it. It provides that replayability. And the challenges are different. They've expanded on some of those challenges. I like the one that Dave and I are currently playing. One player had to take all the challenges, had to win the pink 9 and the yellow 9, and win the first and the last trick. It's kind of a unique challenge. My hand, I think, so far has worked out great for that. We played at BGG Con, and we only lost one. It provides a whole new level, I feel, with the Crew series, and I think is an excellent pickup.
I'm guessing that since you two have been playing this online, that this has a 2-player variant?
It has the 2-player variant has an AI in it, so
Okay.
online it does have an AI that it'll rotate between myself or Dave controlling that third player and choosing which cards they're going to play.
You and I learned a few weeks ago
We're not
that...
gonna talk about that.
What?
Go for it.
You and I learned a few weeks ago that, that's not a 2-player game.
You and I were playing it, and we were just kind of breezing through these, and I'm like, wow, this seems way too easy because I know what you have.
Exactly.
We'd played a couple of games. I look, oh yeah, it's not a 2-player game.
I'm like, man, we are rocking this.
You're like, why is it so hard when Logan's here?
Even the online 2-player variant that has that third player, it's probably a little easy. As you mentioned, either you are playing that person's cards or I am playing that person's cards.
So then you get all that information.
So it gives you a lot more information.
Not all that information.
It's true. It only shows you half.
It only shows you half of the AI's cards. You have one card face down and one card face up on top of it. Once that card on top of that stack gets used, then that second card gets revealed.
Right.
Then you can have that information. In that example that we were playing, I was trying to collect all the yellows. So I played a yellow 9 because I had the yellow 9 and I had a yellow 7. I was expecting Dave to play that yellow 8 because I knew that the AI didn't have that yellow 8 showing. And of course, as soon as I planned on him winning all those yellows, and I took the 4 that was in that AI, sure enough, that 8 pops up. I'm no longer taking all those yellows that I thought I was. The Crew Deep Sea is a great suggestion. Monique also told us that she was very thankful for our gift-giving guide. She mentioned that we listed several games she had not heard of, so hopefully that helps her give some gift-giving ideas as well as others. The gift guide seems to be one of our more popular episodes.
I can tell you I took Dave's advice for gift-giving guide this year.
Which was?
Well, I can't tell you. It's not Christmas, Nate.
Oh.
Don't ask questions around Christmas. That's what my parents always said.
Exactly.
Something to look forward to.
Oh, getting us. We're going to hit on month highlights Going to wager a bet that most of those highlights are going to come from BGG as well. Let's go ahead and begin. What were your monthly highlights, Dave?
As you mentioned, BGG Con is most everything's going to be coming from. I unfortunately had class and I missed the first couple of days of BGG. So I only caught the last 2 days. It was awesome. It was awesome to see a bunch of old friends, people from NUG. It was great to see some of the people from NUG. I haven't seen them in a while. It was also cool to make a few new friends as well. Nathan Tenney was able to come down from Washington and join us. We played a bunch of cool games. We got to play some Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. Tortuga 2199. That was a new one to me, and it was pretty cool. That's a pretty good game.
All of it. I had backed that on Kickstarter.
Oh, okay.
And we played the library copy there.
So yeah, now we just need to open your copy and play it here.
But yeah, it was a good little game. Kind of a deck builder, but very much a lot more other things involved in it.
Yeah, very much an area control game. And was reading that it was an area control game. When we started the game, I was like, this is not an area control game. And then when we finished the game, this is very much an area control game.
Yeah, that one's pretty good. We played Tiny Epic Galaxies. Haven't played that in a long time, so that was good to play again. Viticulture is another new one. I've had a lot of people tell me I needed to play. The only thing that disappointed in that one was the outcome, but it was cool, and big thanks to Royce Severson schooling us. Also got to play with Brent, Royce, and Andy Poops. We played Tybor the Builder. Pretty fun game. I liked that one. Nidavellir, got to play that in person again. Taught that to a few people. I really enjoy that game a lot.
I really like that game too. I was blown away that I won that game because I was getting drugged across the floor. Very different dynamic playing that game with 5 people
Absolutely.
As opposed to playing it with 2 people.
Very, very different.
I actually like the fact that you won because you didn't go heavy on upgrading your coins. Cool to see someone win by not necessarily focusing so much on that. Just going a different strategy. I've only played it twice. The first time it was very much in favor of the person that upgraded their coins. So I liked to see that someone else won by not having to go that strategy. Like seeing a game, there's not a clear path. Oh, you have to do this in order to win. I liked that someone was able to win by not doing what I'd already seen.
I always like games like that where there's actual multiple paths to victory. One strategy isn't the quintessential, the best strategy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just the complete dynamic between going from a 2-player game to that 5-player game. It almost felt like a completely different strategy that I had to use.
That's one of the things I like about that game. You have to be malleable how you play it, depending on player count especially.
I didn't think I had a chance. I'm going to try to get the most points for what I can do to hopefully not be in last place. And then when people started sharing their scores, I was like, really? Really? Really?
What? In our 2-players plays that we've done online, I was surprised with this game with the 5 players. The scores were really quite close. There wasn't a huge gap. Somebody made a comment, and so I had to go back and look at the 2-player version to kind of let them know it does not always end up this close. So don't feel bad. Now, that sounds pretty bad because I'm pointing out that in our 2-player plays, most of the time, there's like a 200-point spread between.
Oh, yeah, you kill me.
I was pointing out, no, don't feel bad. Nathan should feel bad. No. But you won. It's definitely different depending on the number of players. A couple more quick November highlights, not at BGG Con, but for Thanksgiving, we ate enough to make it so we couldn't really move to do anything else. So we got to sit around and play a bunch of games, and that was really fun. It was cool because my wife actually came and played, and so I got to do that. Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday.
Andy's my favorite holiday.
Oh.
All right, give me my ball. I'm going home.
That would only count if you had a ball to take home.
Dang it.
Or a car to take home.
Good point.
And then the last but not least, and maybe even most, I got to play Terraforming Mars again. That was awesome. Played with Ryan and Corey. It really only took us slightly longer than it took Nathan, Andy, and James to play whatever game they were playing.
Underwater Cities. And there was a rule explanation that went along with it.
It had no downtime between turns.
That's up for debate. I don't think you realize there's downtime in any game.
I know, it gets to his turn so quick, and he's like, wow, I just have all the time in the world to think through my turn.
We would have to ask Corey and Ryan if there was downtime in between turns. You did a very good job. You were done with your game of Terraforming Mars before Underwater Cities. Like Andy mentioned, we were teaching James the game. It still worked out pretty good that you guys were able to complete that before us. And it was nice that you got to play Terraforming Mars, and we didn't have to.
That's one of my gaming highlights. not having to play Terraforming Mars with Dave. One of my biggest BGG Con gaming highlights, which we're going to talk about this later, was playing Shadows of Brimstone.
Yes.
We did several games of Shadows of Brimstone, and I had so much dang fun with that game. Can't wait to talk about it on the cast. Mysterium. It was one of the funnest games of Mysterium I've ever played.
This is the most stressful game of Mysterium I've ever played. Goodness.
Wow, I can't imagine why it was stressful for you.
It was funny because I would give clues when you're the ghost, and you give clues, and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm thinking. And then everybody jumps to...
What you're not thinking?
Yeah, like
pointing out
everybody goes,
details that you don't mean at all.
or making association. I seldom do I lead towards color. Every time I put cards out, everybody went straight to color. Okay, so I guess I'll start trying to put some color. And then everybody started going, well, the color didn't work, so let's start going with detail. And I'm like, would you guys just make up your mind?
I think it's the ghost that's supposed to make up their mind and stick with it.
I think it would have worked out better for you, Nathan, if it was one person's clue, you just kept it the same instead of now we're doing color, the clues were working against each other.
And also, as the ghost, you're limited to the cards in your hand.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the worst thing about Mysterium being the ghost is you're exactly right. It's just whatever you have.
Me as the ghost, if there's a card that associates with one of the three cards, that is just like, oh, that card goes with that set. I will keep that card early on so that I can play it in the final round.
I do the same thing.
It handicaps you, but I mean, like,
Yes.
you get to the final round, it makes it so much better.
Unless
And-
Dave's playing.
That was by the skin of our teeth. We won that game. It was amazing.
Nathan's clues to me, we cannot decipher them. It took so long. I had to have two perfect picks to be able to even get to that final round, that final pick. Finally get there, and we all have our little clues. And who was it? It was me. Who got three cards that they got? I think it was Nathan, right?
It was Nathan Tinney and you that were able to look at three cards.
Yeah, so then the two cards were revealed. Dave and Andy made their pick. Nathan and I, we got the extra card, and a little confusing, but didn't change my answer. And then the best moment was when we revealed what our tokens were, and then Nathan just, really? And then Dave being like, what?
The three, Nathan Tinney, Logan, and I all selected the correct one and put our tokens on the correct one, and Dave's was
Dave's was clear out there.
way out there.
But the problem with Dave's is he actually picked up the wrong
Yeah,
token.
he picked up the wrong number. So,
So I was like, what in the world? Where did you come from, Dave?
please explain.
Yeah.
No, the quote was, Dave, explain yourself. So I started explaining myself, and then I looked at my token. And I was like, oh, that's not even the token that I thought I grabbed.
So you're explaining the wrong thing?
I was totally not following your correlation, and then clued in that, yeah, your correlation was to the wrong token. But it all worked out in the end.
It did.
It was a very fun game. It was all over the place for sure.
So Nathan, you taught us how to play Web of Power.
And what did you think?
I actually really enjoyed it. It amazes me how far game industry has come as far as the appearance of games. Games have gotten to where they're much more appealing to the eye than they used to be.
Absolutely.
And this is definitely a testament to that because it's an older game and it is not a beautiful game. I really enjoyed it. A lot going on with it. And it looked like a simple game, but it was one of those where you feel like, I wanted to accomplish this, and I totally had to switch gears halfway through the game because of what other players were doing. I really enjoyed it. It was fun.
It was one that was on my 10 for 1, so one of those games that was in my collection that I haven't played for a long time, but I really wanted to get to the table. Day 1, when we went there, it was supposed to be in the library, but I couldn't find it. Day 2, we found it. Okay, let's play this. So it's a classic game. It's from way back in 2000. 3 to 5 player game. Short, actually. I mean, it played in under an hour.
Yeah.
It has a challenge for sure.
I think the higher player count increases the challenge. It has the area control element, and anytime you have more players added to that, you're increasing the difficulty of the game for area control stuff.
And it's a game that has been re-implemented. China, using that same mechanic. China came out in 2005. It's not a huge gap. I was excited to get it off my gaming goals, which my gaming goals are done. Star Wars Rebellion is the only game I have left to play.
No kidding. Oh, that's awesome. Nathan Tenney brought a game to BGG Con called Perpetual Motion Machine. This is a game that you are trying to make poker hands. Score points by getting cards to where you can play a full house, increasing your stats on your little stat board, depending on what hand you play. It was unique how the game worked. I don't play a lot of games where you're creating poker hands. Not sure how you guys all felt about it.
I thought it was interesting. It was definitely one of those games where, I mean, Nathan had the advantage, right? 'Cause
Oh, yeah,
Nathan
absolutely.
had played it before. So there was that learning curve. I was surprised that you actually won that, Andy. I was expecting Tinny to run away with that. He was doing stuff that I was not doing. Towards the end of the game, it was completely obvious that he was making a better approach at it than I was. I thought the game was fine. It's not one that I'm rushing out to buy, but I would definitely play it again.
It has the feel of a filler game, but it was a little longer than a normal filler game, I think. And obviously that's a player count thing. Fewer people, then obviously the game will play faster. I had fun with that one. I was able to take one of my Kickstarters that I got the day before we left to BGG Con. That was Silverwood Grove. We played that a few times. Logan, you played that with us, right?
I think I played it all times that we played it. The engine builder is you're going off and you're hiring workers to get certain icons to be able to build the buildings. So it wasn't like huge engine building, but it was, and then it was also limited off of how many workers you could have.
You could only have 2 normally.
You can only have 2 normally, and then you were limited if you needed the icons to build a particular building, you'd have to swap them out.
Workers that you have that you can hire. You also can build buildings in this game. You have some resource management that you're doing. You also are upgrading your clan and upgrading your area. So there's 2 different things that you get to upgrade in your game benefits. Like a permanent benefit for your race, which would be your clan. Everybody places a different animal type. And you get to upgrade that, and depending on where you're at on that upgrade is going to unlock certain abilities. You can hire 2 workers. You can have more than 2 buildings, but you can hire 2 workers. The interesting thing about that is there's some of the buildings will have a special effect if you have a particular worker. I did notice that it was harder to cycle through to actually get a lot of those buildings that work well with the workers. You didn't see that a whole lot because you just weren't cycling through those. And I think the biggest reason is you can only have 2 workers at any point in time unless you have some sort of ability or card that allows you to gain more workers, which there are those. There are cards that you can hire workers and that doesn't count towards your total. You did that once, Logan, where you were able to hire a bunch of workers. I think Nathan did that once too. You could hire a ton of workers and it didn't count towards your total. And having all those workers was huge.
Oh, no, it was definitely huge, especially since I think the first time we played, I backed myself into a corner thinking we were going to go through those workers a lot faster. And so I bought a building like, oh, that's going to be amazing if I find this worker. And then we just never cycled through those cards.
Yeah, if people are stuck with basically the 2 workers, you don't cycle through them unless you can get someone that can actually start hiring more of them. It has maybe a few flaws in that game. Overall, I enjoyed it. The food in Texas was phenomenal.
Awesome food.
It was so good.
We went to Hard 8 Barbecue, which I suggested was a mandatory experience. Tried food from Pecan Lodge, which is another barbecue place near downtown Dallas. Shiva's Bar and Grill, which had some Indian food. And then we went to Bushi Bushi Dim Sum, where Logan met the love of his life.
Ah,
That's
Pootie.
true. I forgot about that.
That may have just switched which one was best, just for the robot. The robot that loved Logan.
So we went to this dim sum place where it's a bunch of small plates. And so they have this serving robot that's programmed to bring your food out to you. They put a couple of small dishes on there, say, hey, go take it out to C6. And so the robot would navigation that it would move through the tables to get to C6, and then the waiter would come by and just move the plates from that to the table. Except every time, I don't know why, it would get stuck going to that end of the table where I was next to. And then it got stuck on like the end of the table to where it kept trying to make that turn, but then just kept like jumping it, so it was like getting closer and closer to me. A little screen on there, so it has a face, getting this like, stressed teardrop and whatnot.
Sweat, yeah.
The sweat done in its face as it's like trying to sit in my lap. Robot, we're in public.
So I think the issue was that normally where we were sitting, that table would have been against the wall. Because we had a large group, they slid those tables together, and the robot was confused and found out it really likes Logan.
Just based off of experience, I think, but I mean, it was fantastic Chinese food.
Yeah, it was.
I think it was just great food in general. Hard 8, it was a mandatory experience because it was kind of the experience of barbecue going there, because it was the big smokehouse. You walk up, it was just wafting of smoke.
Yeah. As far as food goes, Hard 8 was my favorite. The dim sum place, the experience overall was probably the best.
Both of those were a far drive from our hotel. We said those were both. I really enjoyed the Indian place so much that we went to it twice. I thought their tikka masala was amazing. I thought that Indian place was amazing. Pecan Lodge had been better in the past for me. Hard 8 did not disappoint. Bushi Bushi did not disappoint. And the Indian food did not disappoint.
Pootie delivered.
Pootie's the robot's name, by the way.
For my last highlight for the month, Dave alluded a little bit, was we had, I want to say game night. So game night at my house is usually on Fridays. It was more of a game day. Everybody had the day off. Friday after Thanksgiving. Played games for a solid, I don't know, what was it, 16 hours, 17 hours of solid gaming. So much fun. I got 13 plays in that day.
We did a whole lot. That's one of my highlights. Between BGG and being able to play at your house, we did a whole lot of Harry Potter recently.
We did, yeah.
And that Harry Potter deck builder game, Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle?
Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle, yeah.
I think it's one of my favorite games right now. It's fantastic. I think we're almost done with all the expansions, and I'm really, really sad. Fantastic game. Nathan does not quite understand what Harry Potter means, because that means even though you should go home and go to bed, you have to stay and play. The other night, playing, and the game just kicked our trash, which it does that all the time. When we were at BGG,
Oh, that was terrible.
went to the library to pick up stuff, and I was like, oh, sweet, they have Harry Potter and one of the expansions we're working on. So we played it there, and it kicked our trash over and over and over again before it could finally squeak by a victory. And it was like the same thing when we were playing the other night. Nathan, he's like, I got to go to bed. I'm like, Nathan, you don't understand. It's Harry Potter. You have to stay and play. And he's like, no, I got to go. I don't think he really understands what that means.
I'm really not looking forward to finishing all the expansions because Harry Potter is currently my secret weapon. When Logan starts acting tired and wants to go home, I have my go-to.
I
Like
witnessed that. just
Harry
the other
Potter,
day.
and he'll stay for hours longer, which we did that. We weren't done until like 3 o'clock in the morning, and he was going to leave at like 11. I'm really hoping that it's still as effective once we're done with all the expansions and we can just start over.
Just finished the last Monsters expansion. The end of the rules, they have the ultimate challenge. 7 locations normally go through 3 or 4, so there's going to be extra locations. You have to go through and fight every single villain and creature through the entire base game and this expansion. And you have also defeat the Horcruxes to defeat Lord Voldemort 4 times.
All the Horcruxes, you have 3 encounters to even to get to the Horcruxes, and then you have to beat the Voldemort cards. There's 4 Voldemort cards that you have to beat, and you have to beat them in order to win the game.
It's going to be an epic challenge. I think we're going to lose a few times doing that. I think it'll still be a secret weapon for a while.
Okay, let's hope so. One more. Same night, we got to break out one of my other Kickstarters that I actually got it while we were at BGG Con, and that was Lizard Wizard.
Oh, that was a great game.
Really fun game. Was a little concerned as I was reading the rules because the rulebook isn't very long. As we were setting it up, I just basically read the rules to everybody, explained super quickly. But there's a lot of strategy and a lot of paths to victory in that, a lot of ways to score points. I think we all had fun with it.
I think it was fantastic. It's definitely one that we're going to have to get back to the table. The other gaming highlights I've had from the month of November. Big Trouble in Little China. If that wasn't on Nathan's 10 for 1, it should have been, because it's fantastic. I missed that game.
That was your first time.
That was my first time, and I forgot to put that on my gaming highlight. I had a good time with that.
And how about Firefly the game, Andy? Did you like that?
It was so much fun. I love that game. I actually do like that game. Didn't like the end scoring for that particular scenario that we
that
played.
scenario was-
Again, we didn't pack the whole damn verse from Nathan's house. We just played the library copy. I was a little worried about when we went to play it is that I'm not used to playing it without all the expansions. Going through the locations, it feels like I'm missing something. We played it. It was fun. It was just, there were item cards that I was looking and just couldn't find them. Shadows of Brimstone, we were able to get a few plays into, and that's fantastic. I love that game. Cowboy meets Cthulhu. Being able to get down and have that excuse, BGG, to play some of these larger games, either player count or just time-wise don't get to the table. Highlight in general. That was the same thing with the Black Friday when we got together with. We had so much time. We played a lot of games, and it was fantastic.
You know, I'm looking at your game highlights, Logan, and I was really surprised to see Pirates Cove on there.
Did want to mention how great I thought Nathan was playing that game. He treated me so well.
It was a rough game of Pirates Cove for Logan.
I was trying to help Dave order food. I was in last place. Everybody went to go fight the pirate at the end to go turn in treasure, and I had like a full boat of treasure to get like 8 victory points. I would have still came in last, and then Nathan plays a card to steal half of it. It's like, wow.
Nathan Tinney didn't enjoy that game either.
Was that his first time playing Pirates Cove?
Yeah,
I
it
think
was
so,
his
yeah.
first
Oh,
time.
really?
Chad Hare that we had met at a con went after Nathan on one turn, and it was just everywhere Nathan went, Chad happened to be going to the same place.
Oh
And so-
yeah, that was just bad.
And Nathan
Yeah.
was getting frustrated because he thought Chad was just going after him. And within that game, you just pick it by
Yeah, it's
rondo,
random, right? Yeah, you don't necessarily know.
It was bad times.
I can see that. Nathan has a hard time. He had a hard time when we played Architects. He admittedly says he needs to play Architects again, but he felt like there was a gotcha part of it where you're taking other people's workers off the board. He struggled with that. And I can totally see that if it's your first time, but I think the more you play, It's just part of the game. You just realize if you load your workers in one spot, plan
Handy
on them.
Poops will take them.
I will take them.
Architects, they kind of counter that with you having so many workers.
Yeah, very rarely are you going to get to the point where you're running out of work. So sometimes it's helpful if someone takes your workers off. You can go and get them all back from jail. Now, if someone's just holding them on their board and not returning them, that's different. But if you just spend one action and get a bunch of your workers back, honestly, it can be helpful. I don't think that's a mechanic that Nathan was necessarily used to playing because it is very unique to Architects of the West Kingdom. If he played again, I think he'd be a little more amiable to that mechanic.
I think one of our other highlights was one, meeting Chad. Another, being able to play with Nathan Tenney. He was able to come down, so we were able to play with him.
Yeah, we played a lot of games in these. That was fun.
So our friend Jared, his son's been coming to play D&D with us, but then his son Logan has been slowly coming around to play more board games with us. It's been hit and miss which games he's liked, but I think the more board games that are not like D&D we've been introducing to him, he's actually enjoyed. It's really interesting to watch his progression to go from not understanding anything to be like, oh, this is like Dominion. Yes, in fact, it is like Dominion.
Which is interesting because he makes those correlations, and I'm thinking I would never have really compared this to that game, compared Gizmos to Dominion, and I would never have made that correlation, but the way he was talking, yeah, it did kind of have a Dominion feel. Dominion's kind of an engine builder, it's a deck builder, but there's still an engine building aspect to it.
I think it's fantastic being exposed to those different types of games and finding the type of games that he likes. He can make those choices of, hey, let's play this one. I really like this aspect. Okay, well, if you really like this one, now I know what to suggest next time to get you to stay, so we can eventually find his Harry Potter game and get him to stay longer.
You guys have talked about a lot of games. Some that New Frontiers, which is in the Roll for the Galaxy series. Andy, you own that. I own that. Dave and I have played it. Out of the Race for the Galaxy series is probably one of my more favorite.
Mine too, for sure.
This one I keep going back and forth on. When the first couple of times I played it, it was probably my least favorite. Playing it a couple more times with you, I was like, okay, I do like this more. Biggest thing that I don't like about this game is that there's not a whole lot of content. It seems like you're seeing all the same stuff over and over again.
Yeah.
So for me, there's not a whole lot of replayability with it because of that.
You do see that with Jump Drive, with Roll for the Galaxy, Race for the Galaxy, New Frontiers. It really kind of just is all the same content, just shaped differently.
But even with the other ones, there's more stuff. But this one, it seems like there's 15 worlds and that's it. I'm sure there's more than that, but we've been playing 2-player. The same things come out.
Same planets all seem to
every
come out,
time.
Yeah.
It seems like in this one, at least in a 2-player, if one person goes military, they're going to win.
It does feel that way.
The developments, there's a lot of good developments for people who are going military where they're going to score a ton of points trying to get a bunch of blue worlds, produce and sell. Consuming those goods is cool and you can get points that way, but just when you can buy one development that gives you 15 points because you have 15 military, it kind of wipes all that out.
I think my favorite of Roll for the Galaxy is my least favorite, but New Frontiers, I think I almost enjoy more than Race for the Galaxy. Can't say it's my favorite. Jump Drive is by far my favorite because it's quick and painless even when it's painful. So,
even when it's painful. Huh?
Another one that just got to the table, which is I highly enjoy, is Silver and Gold. Playing this with my wife. A deck map discovery, pirate map discovery game where you have dry erase markers and you're trying to fill in maps in front of you and you're trying to complete the most maps. And depending on the color, you give it points. Way to score points off palm trees and a variety of ways to fill in your maps. The game plays over 4 rounds. I highly enjoy it. I think Silver and Gold is a great filler game. At Extra Life, Andy and I got to play Hadara with Jenna. That was enjoyable. Another one that apparently only Andy and I have played together, Fantasy Realms, which is a different drafting deck building game. You're trying to get 7 cards in your hand to complete a story. We've played that several times, and those scores have varied. But you're trying to use those cards to form a collection of these 7 cards to give you a variety of points to hopefully maximize those points in the combination of those cards. It's a simple deck game, small, easily replayable. We played it in the airport, Andy, and played it at Extra Life as well.
So we've only played this 2-player. It would be interesting to try it 3-player. There are certain cards that work really well together that you're going to score a ton of points if you can get the right cards in your hand. I wonder if it's going to be easier to find those cards because you have more players going through the deck, but you also have players that may be trying to do the same thing. They may end up in the discard pile more with more players, but I don't know if that necessarily means having more players will make it easier to get those cards. It'll be interesting to try a higher player count. What's the max player count on that? One thing that I ran into a lot is I'll grab a card, and I'm looking for a very specific 1, 2, or 3 cards, and I never even see them the entire game because they're still in the deck. In that aspect, it would be nice to have more people drawing cards and filling their hands up and maybe discarding that card that I'm looking for.
Yeah, it goes up to 6 players. You bring up that point where it does give you that opportunity to see more of those cards out there, but with 5 other people playing the game, the chances of them going for that same strategy is going to be tougher. Comparable to a Nidavellir, where with that player count change, the score is going to change dramatically, and the outcome is going to be completely
And
different.
the gameplay, probably. I mean, as simple as that game is, I can totally see your strategy and what you're trying to do completely change. And I can see you deciding, just going to have to abandon my strategy third into the game. Someone takes a card that you want, you see it in the discard pile, someone takes it, and you're like, okay, well, I'm switching gears at this point, and you have to see if you can salvage your game and still pull out a win.
And it does have an expansion that just came out this year that I have, but we haven't played. Fantasy Realms: The Cursed Horde. Added some more cards, some more content. Basic rules still stay the same.
This is one of those games that I would like to own. It's one of those games that I feel is a great filler game because it's fast. I really like it. It's a fun game. A lot of filler games are okay. More of a, hey, let's just pass the time. But it's one that I would always be willing to play because it's fun. Plenty of strategy that you can do, plenty of a pass that you can take. For a simple card game, it's very well done.
Another game that I got to play with my wife was Ticket to Ride New York. Also a great idea for a gift. It's Ticket to Ride simplified. It's on a much smaller map. It's shorter, fewer connections. Instead of trains, you're doing taxi routes.
Oh, really? Wow.
We also, at BGG Con, we got to play Power Grid, the card game, which is something I've owned for a long time. Brent and I played it once a long time ago. Tinny pulled this out of the library. I thought, yeah, this is great. I want to play this again. Very much made me want to play Power Grid again. So I think I'm put Power Grid on my 10x1 for next year. Did get a chance to play some social games. Age of War, dice rolling set collection. Players are trying to battle over locations, rolling patterns on their dice. I lost that game horribly. Play that with Dan Naylor, who's one of the organizers for SaltCon. We also got to play Master Word, a word association game. Clue Giver has a word, everybody else has a timer, and they're trying to get the word association. The player will give a subject, let's say a character. 4 round guessers are trying to determine, is it a fictional character, a novel character, historical character, try to gather all that information, get an answer. 3 attempts to guess the answer. Played that 2 times. First time we nailed it. The second time we didn't even get close. And then the final game of the con for me was a game called Free Ride, a Friedman Freese game. Free Ride was great. It plays really easy. It kind of feels like Trans-America, but more fun. Or maybe even fun.
More fun.
Maybe even fun.
Trans-America is a great game I'll play with my family and has its niche. Free Ride is an upscale, and it's not necessarily a fair comparison. Kind of give it any sort of association with the game. It's like Trans-America, but fun. Not to say that Trans-America is not a fun game. Talked a long time. Definitely exceeded our 30 minutes. BGG Con highlights definitely the food, the games, the friends, meeting new people. My wife asked why we paid money to go play games somewhere else. Because of the experience. The experience and the associations that you make there that you just don't really get with your normal gaming group at home, with your family or with your friends. So we didn't talk any new games, but we talked a lot about games. So there was a lot of games that we talked about this episode. Some good stuff. That was BGG Con 2021 and our December news.
Until next time.
We'll see you playing a ton more games, because you know what? For the November, I played over 110 games. 43 of them with BGG Con. It's a lot of games in 1 month.
That's pretty awesome. I hit my high too, so mine was in the 50s.
That's still pretty good.
As always, we want to thank you for listening.
Check out our website. We have all sorts of cool things there. Love those blogs. Get a deeper look into the writing side of Meeple Nation.
Join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. I look forward to seeing you there.
Follow us on Twitter at Meeple Nation. We also have Instagram.
Under the same name. We also want to thank our sponsor, GameToppersLLC.com.
We love their product, and they have so much goodness out there.
And we
We also want to thank Brain Detergent for our music.
Talking you into your dream times? Is that only Dave to Julie?
Yeah, that's only Dave and Julie. Dave, what were your monthly highlights for November, since this is the 1st of December? What were your monthly highlights, Dave?
So it was, I didn't say so just now.
Phew.
We were worried.
So, BGG Con, and I didn't just say so either. So,
The joy. Oh, I meant to say so.
shut up.